We shuffled out of the taxi on a quiet part of Kenmare Street, passed under an unmarked awning, and entered a dark room with a double-height ceiling. We were immediately hit by the sounds of roaring soul music and chatter. There were rounded banquettes of brown leather and a few tall cylindrical lights coming down from the ceiling. The walls were painted with cherry blossom branches, and each table held a tiny votive candle. A staircase at the back of the room went up to a second floor, where we could see nothing but red bell-shaped lamps. As we made our way through the restaurant, the crowd seemed to part, as it usually did whenever I was with Sophie. With her dark, wavy hair that fell almost to her waist, a layer of straight bangs that fell almost into her eyes, and perfectly curved lips, Sophie was beautiful to the point where almost everyone looked quickly and then looked again for a long time. We spotted Zoe standing at the bar wearing a black corset and fanning her face with a menu. Her chin shot up immediately when she saw us. She was standing in a circle with Sophie's other friends, next to a vase of cherry blossoms. This was Sophie's artistic crowd. Friends she'd made in college as an art history major, or while bouncing from one assistant job to the next in studios all over the world. They ranged from being an amateur watchmaker with nothing but an attic in Saint-Germain to being very famous and photographing Kate Moss for French Vogue. Sophie and I met freshman year of college. At first, she was just a name on a piece of paper. Sophie Warren, Escola Americana do Rio de Janeiro. That was to be my roommate. Even though it's been over 10 years since then, I still somehow always think of us this way. It was a vulnerable time. We were thrown together into a hot, empty room in an unfamiliar city, and it bonded us for life. It gave me the feeling that I was closer to her than anyone. "Where are your earrings from?" one of Sophie's other friends asked me. I held on to my ears with both hands and realized I didn't have a clue. I worked at a law firm with a bunch of men, so not only would nobody ask me about my earrings, but sometimes, just for fun, I'd think about walking into work and saying, "Bad hair day, am I right?" knowing nobody would respond. I started talking to one woman, a curator of Russian art, who crossed and recrossed her arms as she spoke about the emergence of womanhood during Soviet times. Another woman was wearing a glorified bra as a shirt and talking about how she was jet-lagged, how she'd just been to a show in Paris with the porniest paintings. A guy named Hans was chatting with the bartender. Sophie had insisted he be there because his family owned half the lighting stores in Manhattan, and she didn't have to worry about sleeping with him since he was gay. We were shown to our banquette, Zoe motioning madly to the waiters, which resulted in a tray of pink martinis as soon as we sat down. "Congratulations," Zoe squealed. "Now, let's go around the table and say what we like most about Sophie." "That's okay," Sophie said. "Really." She took a sip of her drink. "Let's go around and say what we like most about vodka." Everyone laughed. Sophie's friend Cassandra arrived at 11, claiming she had lost track of time. I wasn't a huge fan of Cassandra, but only because when I asked her what her occupation was, she said, get this, muse. A new round of drinks arrived. "Congratulations," Zoe repeated, and our crew clinked together chalices of pink something or other. "I tried to reach Abe so that we could play the newlywed game, but he didn't respond to my many emails," Zoe said. Sophie shrugged. Zoe straightened her back. "Oh, I know. Why don't each of us share our craziest Sophie memory?" There were ohs and ahs. Sophie was silent. "I'll go first," Zoe said. "Sophie and I were snorkeling in the Pajachos de Maracajau. That's in Brazil," she said with an accent. Zoe liked to mention her and Sophie's childhood, 2 American transplants growing up in Rio de Janeiro, as often as possible. It was her not-so-subtle way of reminding us that she had been there first. This kind of event almost always turned into a competition over who could win the most favor with the bride-to-be. Zoe was less than pleased that the role of maid of honor had gone to me. She had asked Sophie, in an attempt to regain